I'm Shelly Turner with the Builderall team. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create an entire website using the responsive builder. So as you can see, I'm actually on the website that we're going to build, and it is in the design of a fruit shop or a fruit stand. And if I scroll up and down, you can see that I've got several different elements on the page, and we're going to build this whole thing from scratch. So let's go ahead and jump in and get started. I'm in the HTML editor for the finished product, and I'm going to show you what the finished product looks like to show you what we're going to work towards. So we have a lot of work to do, so let's go ahead and take a look at how we can get started. I'm here on my dashboard, and I'm going to go to Builders and then drag and drop Responsive Builder. And I'm going to go to New Responsive Site, and I'm just going to start with a blank page. We have several different designs for blank pages. I'm just going to go with the blank layout clean, and I'm going to click Edit. And I'm going to click No, I Know Everything. And now my window is open and I can start editing, but before we edit, there's several things that I want to show you. The first thing is that we have a header here and a footer here. And this blank template comes with a header and a footer that are both blue. We can change those colors later. We also have the body of the document right here. And there's a couple things that I want you to know about the header and the footer. First of all, every single page in this layout will have the same header and the same footer. This is really important to understand because when you're developing navigation, you want navigation to be on the header and the footer so that no matter what page they're on, they can always get back to the page they want to be on if it's a different page. Navigation typically goes in the header, and then there's some smaller navigation menus that end up in the footer. Things like links to the disclaimer policy, the privacy policy, the terms of the website use, and all those usually go in the bottom in the footer. It's really important to understand that the header and the footer are the same for every single page in a layout. And then the body changes between pages. Now, if I click the page button, I can see that this is my layout. It's called default, and I can have more than one layout. The importance of more than one layouts is that if you have a new layout, it has a new set of headers and footers. So if you want to develop some pages that have a different set of menus than the default layout does, then you just create a new layout and you can have a brand new set of menus. When does this become important? It becomes important when you're building something like a membership site. When you have the unprotected layout, you have a certain menu that allows you access to all of the unprotected pages. If you create a new layout and it has protected pages for the membership site, it's going to have a different menu so you can navigate between the pages inside the membership site. You wouldn't want to have that same menu out on the unprotected area because they couldn't get into the pages if they click the menu. So it's very important to use layouts as a way to differentiate your pages and your header and footer so that you can create different menus and different ways for your user to navigate your website. So the next thing we're going to do is download all of the pictures that you're going to need for this training. So access the download link, and here are the images that you need to have for creating your website. We're going to make the entire fruit stand website from scratch. So you're going to have each of these images so you can do that. To get the images, you just right-click the image and go to Save Image As, and then choose where you want to put it on your computer. Once you've saved all of the images, let's go back and create our blank website. So here I am back at my blank website. And the first thing I'm going to do to get ready to start building my website is to save this. So I'm going to click Save, and I'm going to name it, and then I'm going to click Send, and then Save. And now I'm ready to get started in building my website. So I'll see you on the next video. I'm Shelley Turner with the Builderall team. In this video, I'm going to work with you on building the header of our website. But before we do, I want to help you understand the idea of rows versus lines versus columns. So when we're working in our website, we need to make sure that we're paying close attention to rows, columns. The most important thing to understand is that every single line, which goes from one side of your web page to the other side of your web page, is a defined value of 12. So if I've got two columns that are evenly spaced together, that means that this column is a defined value of 6, and this column is a defined value of 6. So if I right-click it and define the value as 6, and then I right-click this one and define the value as 6, then you'll see that they are evenly spaced because 6 plus 6 equals 12. So watch what happens if I leave this column a 6, but change this one to a 7. So let's try that out and see what happens. You see what happened? We now have our column that is 6, that's this one right here, but our column with 7 was thrown down into the next row. It does that because 6 plus 7 is a defined value of 13, and that just won't work for going all the way across. So what it does is it throws that column into the next row. So what I can do is just click Edit Row and choose to delete that row. I go back to the one row, but it only has one column in it. This area right here has not been defined at all. So I can go back and right click this column and copy it, and it creates a new column for me so that I have two columns now that are each defined value of 6. So together they're a defined value of 12. So that's what we're going to work with inside this website, is making sure that every single row in our web page has a defined value of 12. If it has more than 12, it will create a new row and take any columns that don't fit and put it in that new row. Okay, so now let's start working on our header. So the first thing we need to do is bring in our logo. This is not our logo, so I'm going to click it and I'm just going to hit the delete button, and that deletes that image. Now I'm going to go to the plus sign and I'm going to go to image, and I'm going to click that first one, image, and it puts an image placeholder there. And what I'm going to do is right click it and do change image. And now you should have actually downloaded all of your pictures, and now you can upload them onto your media folder, which is the digital file repository. To do that, all you do is click upload and then choose the location that those pictures are at on your computer, and then OK, and it will upload all of these pictures. I've already uploaded all of my pictures, so I'm going to find the picture of the fruit shop, and I'm going to click that picture and click confirm. Now it's pulled it in, but you can't see it because the logo is actually white. So if I click it and drag it up, you'll see that it starts to appear when I put it on the blue background. Also notice that when I drag it, wherever my mouse is, that's where this picture can be dropped. So my mouse is in the center of that first column. That means if I drop it there, it's going to be attached to the first column. If I click it and drag it again over to the second column, do you see where the mouse is? When I go right over into the second column, now I can drop that picture and it will be attached to the second column. So I want this attached to the header. So I'm going to just click the header and make it a little bit taller by using these handles. There we go. And now I'm going to find my picture again. And I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. We don't need it quite this big. So I'm going to click the handle and drag it to make it smaller. And once I get it to about the size that I want, I'm going to click and drag it again. And I'm going to bring it up here to the top. And we might make this a little bit taller. There we go. And now we've got our logo in there perfectly. So I've got my logo in there. And the next thing I want to do is add the icons. I can take this picture right here, it's an image, and I can click it to activate it, and I can hold my control button down and hit the letter C, that means copy, and then I hold the control button down and hit the letter V, and that's paste. So I just copied and pasted this image, just as easy as that. I'm going to roll it over to here, and now I'm going to right click it and change image. I'm going to go back to my quick start folder, and I'm going to pull in this image right here. I'm going to make it smaller by clicking the handles and dragging it down. And now I'm going to Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. And I've got two more images. I'm going to right click one of them, change image, and I'm going to pick my other icon in my quick start folder. That changed that one. And I'm going to right click, change image, and choose the last image, the last icon, and confirm. So these are a little bit big. I'm going to make them a little bit smaller by clicking those handles and dragging them down. That's probably pretty good right there. So now I've got my icons in there. Now let's add some text in there. So I go over to plus and text. And when I'm looking at my text, I've got several options. I've got title text, which is the same thing as H1, H2, H3, and H4. That's important to know for people that use SEO or search engine optimization. Then we have paragraph text, including the body large and the body medium and the body small. I'm going to choose body medium for this one. So I'm just going to click it and it appears right there. So I'm going to drag this up so we can kind of see it in the blue. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy this and paste it 2 more times because I'm going to need 3 of these. So I'm going to Control C, Control V, and Control V. Now I've got 3 copies. That's exactly what I need. So the first one, I'm going to pull up my notepad, and I've already typed in exactly what I need. So I'm just going to highlight it and Control C for copy. And then I'm going to click and double click inside of that box to get my cursor in there. Then I'm going to triple click to highlight all of it. And I'm going to hit Control V, and it pasted the information from my notepad. Then I'm going to go ahead and make this shorter. We want this closed in just like that. So the next one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go in here, get this information. I'm going to Control C to copy. Then I'm going to click inside of here, double click to edit the text, triple click to highlight all of it, and then Control V to paste. And then I'm going to click outside of it and then back on it again so I can drag that handle and make it shorter. And I'm going to do the same thing for the last one. So highlight this information here, Control C for copy, click on the box, double click to put my cursor in there, triple click to highlight everything, and then Control V to paste. And then click outside of it and then back on it so I can actually make this smaller. All right, so now we have all of our boxes, and we need to go ahead and start formatting so that it will actually look good on this particular screen. I need to have white, so I'm going to go ahead and click and then double click, and then I'm going to highlight all of it. And I'm going to go over here to where I can change the text color, and I'm going to click the down arrow and choose white. And I think I want it bold to make it really stand out. And I'm going to double click in here. I'm going to highlight all of it, click the text color icon, and choose white and bold. And then here I'm going to double click to go inside of it, highlight all of it, click the text color icon, and choose white and bold. And now I've got everything changed to the right color. I've got my icons in there, and I can start lining things up a little bit. But before I do, I think I want to change the background color to the right color, which is the red color. So let's go to Edit Row and Background Line and Color. And now we have the choice of several different colors, but I'm going to go ahead and grab the exact color of the original website. So I'm going to change my screen to that exact website. And here's that red color. And I've got my color picker here. The color picker is available in the Google Chrome Web Store. Just be very, very careful when you download and install extensions because sometimes they can have malware or viruses attached to them. So make sure you're getting an extension that has a good rating, and you always need to make sure that you have good antivirus on your computer before ever installing any Google Chrome extensions. So I'm going to click on that color, and it gives me the exact color. So I'm going to copy that. So Control C to copy that, and it's ready to go. So I'm going to go back to my HTML editor. I'm changing the background color. So I'm going to pick color, and then I've got my color picker. I'm going to choose more colors. And right here, I can highlight all of that and paste that color picker that I had. And it puts in the exact color of the website that I was looking at. So that's how you can pick colors so easily. Also on my notepad, I'm going to go ahead and put that color in there so I can use it again later. All right, so I've added a color picker and then red header and then the exact number that I need to be able to change that color to the correct color on my editor. So I'm going to just keep that available because I'm going to use it again. And now I can start kind of manipulating these things. So let's take a look. We've got on the home page, we've got the location first, and then the time, and then the email. So let's go ahead and see if we can edit that. So location, time, and email. And then this is the location, this is the time, and this is the email. That's wonderful. But now let's go ahead and space it in a way that is very organized. I'm going to go to my ruler, and you see that I've got a ruler here, and I can click on that ruler on the right hand side, and it creates a straight line for me, which is a guideline, so I can actually line things up exactly how I want them. So I'm going to go ahead and try to line up these words exactly the way I want them. It does have a snap to. If you notice when I get close to the line, it snaps to the line. And now that I've got my lettering straight, I can pull it down a little bit and we can line up the icons, make sure that they're lining up correctly as well. Also, you have the power to not only move these icons with the mouse, but you can use the right arrow, the left arrow, the up arrow, and the down arrow. You see how it moves it just ever so slightly. So if you're working with a mouse, sometimes it can be very difficult to move things just a tiny bit, and using those arrows might be very helpful. So let me move this up just a little bit. I'm going to move the icons up just a little bit more. Okay, so you can see that now we're starting to get the semblance of a pretty organized website, and we can definitely deal with spacing and stuff like that as we go. Once you've lined everything up the way you want them, you can actually right click that guideline and it will disappear. Just click it again and it will reappear, and you can put it wherever you want. Okay, so now we've got everything pretty well lined up. The next thing I can do is pull up these columns so that they're a little bit closer to these elements. So I'm going to click on one of the columns and I'm going to grab the handle and move it up closer, just like that. So that way I have the ability to shorten that header a little bit so that it doesn't take up a whole lot of space. Okay, I can also get rid of the ruler and I can kind of see how it's going. Another thing I can do is I have to have room for my social media icons and my menu. So I'm going to go ahead and create another line. And so all I'm going to do is just copy this one. You see how it made a second copy? And I don't need the fruit shop logo, so I'm going to click on that and hit the delete button. And now I don't need this in the middle, right? I don't need it in the middle. So I'm going to right click it and I'm going to choose to move it. And I can use these icons here to go backwards and forwards. So if I click this one, it moves it to the end. If I click this one, it moves it the other way. So the first icon moves it to the right. The second icon moves it to the left. It's kind of the opposite of what you would expect. But the important thing is that I can manipulate that to move it around. So now let's talk about defining our values, because these columns are not defined. If I right click, there's nothing to tell me what they've been defined as. But I want two columns on this first row. So if I want two columns and it has to be a total of 12, then each column has to be a value of 6, a defined value of 6. So I'm going to go ahead and click down and choose 6. And now I'm going to click this one and choose 6. And what that did is it sent the next column down into the next line or the next row. We have a new row right here. So now I can start manipulating this new row to do what I need it to do. So this is where I'm going to put my menu, and I'm going to put my social icons in here. So let's go ahead and grab the social icon. So I'm going to go to plus and then social, and I'm going to go ahead and go to social bars. And here's a bunch of different bars. Remember, we're replicating the original site, so this was the bar that was on there. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and it adds it to the site. And it's pretty big, right? We don't need it to be that big. So I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to go to edit. This is where I can change the way it looks, and I've got 3 different ways to do that. I can change the size, so I can go smaller, or I can go bigger. I'm definitely going to go smaller, so I'm going to put it right about there. And then the spacing, which is the spacing between each of the icons. So I can go closer together, and I can go further apart. I'm going to go ahead and keep it about what it was before. We'll say 15. Perfect. And then position, I can choose for this to be a horizontal line, or I can change it to vertical, meaning up and down. I'm going to keep it horizontal, and I'm going to click confirm. And now I've got it about the size that I want it, and I can put it where I want it. Now, one thing I want you to know is that we need to try to stay inside these outside guidelines. If we go outside of that, our item won't show on the device. So we need to make sure we're inside those guidelines. So right here, we may want to put this right at the edge here. But if you notice, there's only one column, and I'm going to have a menu on this line as well. So I need another column. So I'm going to put this up here for a second and make sure that the column's empty. And I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go to add column. And now I should have 2 columns. Perfect. And I'm going to put my social media right here at the top right hand corner. And then I'm going to go ahead and drag this up. And now I've got a little bit too much space between these items and the share. And there's our guideline right there. We'll put that right about there and put everything in the middle. And let's see how that looks without the guideline. Oh, that looks really good. So now we've got that taken care of, and we'll put the social media so it lines up about with the end of this right here. And then we'll get rid of our ruler, and everything is looking great so far. So make sure that we've got everything as far up as it can go, so we can shorten it and bring it up a little bit. And then this one, we'll bring it up a little bit. Great. Fantastic. So now we've got everything lined up. I actually think that these icons can be a little bit smaller. So let's go ahead and go to edit, and we'll change the size. There we go. Put it at a 37, confirm, and we'll scooch it all the way over here to right where the end is right there. So now that looks a little bit better. We've got another item that we're going to do, which is put in the menu, and we'll put that right there. But we're going to do that later on in building the website. So far, we've created the header, and we're strictly working with desktop view right now. Later on in another series of videos, we'll actually edit for the mobile and the tablet. But right now we're only editing for desktop, and we've got our header just about done. So we'll go to the next step, and I'll see you in the next video. I'm Shelly Turner with the Builderall team. In this video, we're going to work on building our first section on our new website. First of all, I need to think about what I'm working on, this very first section here. So I'm working in this row. So I'm going to be editing and working in this row. If I take a look at it, I've got a column here and a column here. And if I right click, the first column is defined as a value of 6, and the second column is defined as a value of 6. This will work out perfectly because I've got text and a button to put on the left side, and then I just want the picture of the strawberries to show on the right side. So let's take a look at the original website, and we'll see how we want it all to look. So this is how we want it to look. We want the strawberries to go all the way across the screen, but then we want the text to be right here. And this will be that second column right here that is blank, and it's able to show the raspberries. Let's go ahead and jump into our editor and see if we can get that done. All right, back in the editor, the first thing I need to do is put a background on this row, and that background needs to be that picture of the raspberries. So I'm going to go ahead and click Edit Row, and from here, I can choose background line, I can choose internal style or full style. I'm going to go background line, and there's my full or internal. What that means is if I choose full, it's going to go the length of the full screen. If I choose internal, that means it's going to stay within these grid lines right here, the right side and the left side. And so if the screen is bigger than that, it actually won't extend bigger than that. I'm going to click full because I want the picture to go all the way across the screen. The next thing I need to choose is, do I want to do a video, an image, color, or texture? So let's take a look. We could do a video in here. We could also do a color. Let's take a look at that. We could do the color as yellow, and we could also choose to add a texture to that. There's lots of different textures. Let's choose this one right here. So you see that's kind of an overlay of the color. Or if you had an image in there, you could do that overlay. Or if you had a video in there, you could do that overlay. As it is, I don't want any of that, so I'm going to go ahead and just clear style. And that takes all that formatting off, and I can start from the beginning. So what I want to do is add an image. So I'm going to click image, and then I'm going to go ahead and go to my trusty pictures that I downloaded, and then I'm going to choose my raspberry picture and click confirm. And now that picture is actually in there and ready for me. And I can make these columns a little bit taller or a little bit shorter. I'm going to make them shorter because that pulls in more of the picture of the raspberries. So remember, I'm still dealing with 2 columns, and I put this picture as the background on the row. So far, so good. Now let's take a look at the picture again. And I've got some text here. I've got a large text and a smaller text. And I want to make sure that I'm using the same type of text throughout my entire site. And I'm using a lot of this text because if you scroll down, you can see that I'm using it there, I'm using it there, I'm using it right there. It's the same exact text. So I want to make sure that I'm consistent across the entire website using the same text. It's really not good if you use several different styles of text. So try to keep it down to a minimum of 2 or 3, and that way your page is going to load faster and it's going to look a lot cleaner. So let's go to our editor. And I'm going to use a couple of different things for my text. So I'm going to click the text icon, and this is where I customize my fonts. So I can set the fonts to look a certain way throughout the entire website so that every time I choose title extra large, it'll look exactly the same when I grab it. And I want to use that in my website. So I'm going to click title extra large. And for this one, I want a specific type of font. So I'm going to click the down button on the family of font, and I'm going to keep going until I find the one I want, which is Engelbert. So there it is right there. I'm just going to click on it. So see how it changed the style of it? And then instead of 55, I want it to be 65. So that changed the size of it. And I can choose to bold it or not. I can italicize it or not. I am going to change the color because I need the color to be white. So I'm going to click on the color and choose white. And now that text is ready to go. I'm also going to be using the body medium quite a bit. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to keep the same font. I'm going to keep the same size, but I'm going to change it to white. See how that's changed for me? And now I can close that. And now every time I grab title extra large, it's going to look like this. Every time I grab body medium, it's going to look like this. So I'm going to check out my columns first. Remember, I have 2 columns. And inside of these 2 columns, let's look at the page again. I'm going to have this element of text, this element of text, and then I'm going to have a button. So I'm going to have 3 different elements that have different styles and settings. So I need 3 areas in that column that are separated out. So let me go back to the editor, and I'm going to work in this column right here. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to choose add element grid. When I click that, it adds a grid in there. I need 3 of those. I've added 1, so I'm going to click it again and click it 1 more time. So I now have 3 different grids in there, 1 for the large text, 1 for the small text, and 1 for the button. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add some text in there. So I'm going to go to plus, and I'm going to go to text. When I do that, I get to choose which style. Well, I'm doing the header text, so I'm going to choose the extra large style. So I'm going to click on that, and it adds it in there. So I'm going to delete a lot of that. Just going to put the letter X as a placeholder, and then I'm going to drag it onto that first element. Okay, I'm going to grab text again, and this time I'm going to do the body medium. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to drag it into that second element. And now I need a button, so I'm going to plus and go to button, and I'm going to choose a green button, and I'm going to click and drag that to the third element window. The first thing I'm going to do is go into the first text, and I'm going to start editing that one, but I need the text that I'm going to use, and it just so happens that I put that in a notepad. So right here's the text of the large font. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to click in here, and I'm going to paste it, and then I'm going to get rid of that X. So now we've got all of our font in there that we need for that first headline, but as you can see, it's way bigger than that element box. So I'm going to click on the element box, and that allows me to have a handle, and I'm going to click on that handle, and it automatically expands so that I can put that text in there. I'm going to shorten that text up just a little bit, and I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to expand it again. So now I have the text in there the way I want it. Now I'm going to do this text box right here. So I'm going to open up my notepad again. I'm going to copy this text in there. So copy it, double click, and then triple click, and then paste. And now I've got my text in there. And then I've got my button. And remember, we set this text setting ahead of time. So all we had to do was put the text in there, it formatted it correctly, and it kind of did all the work for us. We didn't have to do a whole lot of work. So now I'm going to focus on this button. I think the original was blue. Let's take a look. The original was blue. Let's go ahead and make it green because that will be a color that just kind of blends better together with this site. So I'm going to go back to the editor. I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to go to text first, get a free quote. And you have a button subtitle, so you can add more text if you want to. We're just going to keep it as get a free quote and confirm. Now I'm going to right click it again and go to appearance. I've chosen this format for this button. I can choose any one of these button formats. All I have to do is hover over them, and I can see what kind of button style it is. I actually like this green round corners, but I want to make it from scratch so you can see it. So I'm going to do add a style, and I'm going to type in new style and click confirm. And now I need to click that to get the check mark there. It's not formatted at all. So I need to go to the gear on that style, and I'm going to edit the style. So I'm going to click the gear, and that gives me a bunch of settings. I have a whole bunch of settings available. So let's go ahead and get started to figure out what settings we need to change. So I'm going to go to font, and I'm going to keep the font the same, but I could also choose to left justify, right justify, or keep it in the center. I can bold these letters, I can italicize these letters, and I can change the font size. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to change the size of the font, and I'm going to bold it. Then I can do the font for the subtitle. So if I had set up a second line of text on this button, I could change the formatting of that text right here. Then I can change the inner background. For this, I can add an image. So if I click this button, it takes me to where my images are, and I can choose to add an image like this and click confirm. And you can see that it adds that picture to the background. So I could use that on a button, but for this one, it doesn't look very nice. So I'm going to go ahead and take it off. And to do that, all I do is hit the trash can, and it removes the image. I can also create a border on this button. Right now, its default is hidden, but I can choose a solid line, dashed, dotted, or grooved. I'm going to choose solid. And I can choose the size of that border. And I can choose the color of the border. So I'm going to change the color to a bright blue. And I'm going to change the border color for the hover effect. I'm going to change that to a bright red. So what that does is when I hover over the button, it changes it from blue to red. I actually don't want a border on this one, so I'm going to click my trash can to get rid of the blue, my trash can to get rid of the red. I'm going to set the border size to 0 and change it to hidden. And now there's no border on my button. The next thing is round borders, and we will cover those in just a minute. And I also have the ability to create a shadow for my button. So if I click Enable Shadow, you can see the shadow kind of coming off the button right here. And to get back to my settings, I can go to right click and Appearance. And it takes me right back to where I was at. So I'll click the shadow again. I can also choose to do an internal shadow. So instead of being on the outside of the box, it's actually on the inside of the box. I don't want a shadow on this button. I'm going to uncheck Enable Shadow. Then I can work with the color of the background. This is where I want to set up the green color. So the background color, I'm going to click the color box and I'm going to choose a dark green. And then I want a background color that is if you hover over it. So I'm going to click that button and I'm going to go to a lighter green. So let's see what happens. You see how it changes colors like that? Let's change it to a little bit darker green. There, we got a little bit less harsh of a change. Okay, so we've changed the color background. Now I'm going to change the colors of the text. Right now the text is white, so I'm going to keep the text color white, but the hover color, I think I'm going to change it to a lighter green. So I'm going to click a lighter green color, and now you'll see the color of the text change when I hover. The next item is internal spacing, and that allows me to create some extra spacing just in case I don't want something in the exact middle. So I can move it just a little bit to the left, or I can move it just a little bit to the right. Okay, so that's internal spacing. The next thing I want to cover is the round borders. So here is where I get to round off my square corners to make this button look a little bit less harsh. I'm going to use a really big round corner. I'm going to set it to 100. And notice what it did to that corner. If I set the next corner to 100, it creates a completely round end, and I'm going to do that to both sides. So now we have a really nice rounded button, and it has a little bit of a hover effect, and I can make it just a little bit smaller. There we go. And I can move it into this area where it aligns with all of the text. So that's really all we're going to do for this section of the website, and I will see you in the next video where we'll start working with the next section. I'm Shelley Turner with the Builderall team. In this video, we're going to work on the second section of the body area of our website. I want to go ahead and work with a new row. I've been working with this row in the last video, and I'm ready to start with a new row. So I can go ahead and go to Edit Row, and I can choose Add Row. And it added a row right underneath where I was working, so down at the bottom, and it added it with 2 columns, which is perfect. That's exactly what we need. So let's take a look at what we're going to do for this particular row. In this row, we're going to set this up right here. So we need to make sure we have 1, 2, 3 element grids in this column. I can choose to have 1 element grid, or I can do an element grid, another element grid for the text, and then an empty element grid here. So space grid, text grid, and then another space grid. That's usually the way you do it to be able to manage that space when we start talking about getting it set up for the mobile. So let's jump in and see what we can do. All right, so let's go ahead and start by putting our 3 element grids in here. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to add an element grid, add an element grid, and add an element grid. So I've got 3 of them in there, 1, 2, 3. And then remember we said we were going to add 3 in here. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. So now we have 3 grids in each column, and we need to start adding the information or the elements in. So on the first one, we had a text element. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So it looks like we had this text element centered, and we've got the 10 professional bolded, and we've got it kind of a gray color. So let's go back and do that. So I'm going to go to plus and then text, and I'm going to go ahead and add the body large here and pull it into the correct grid. And then I'm going to pull up my notepad. Right here is the exact text we want in there. So I'm going to copy it and then click in there and paste. Now we've got some settings to do. So let's go ahead and highlight it. And for this one, we want to change the font, and we need to choose that Engelbert again. This is one that was not formatted to Engelbert. And then we need to center it, and we may want to make it a little bit larger. So I'm going to go to size, and we'll choose 16 and see how that does. Nope, not quite big enough. How about 25? Oh, that's good. And now we want to look at the color. It's a black color right now, so I'm going to highlight it again, and I'm going to go to the font color, and I'm going to choose a dark gray. And that's not on the list, so I need to look at my color palette. And this is kind of a dark gray, so we'll choose that one and OK. There we go. And now I'm going to go to the 10 professional, and I'm going to bold that. So now it kind of stands out. And now I need to click outside of the text and click it again, and we'll drag it in here and drop it right where it needs to be. So great, we've got that one. Now in the second one, we've got a picture. Let's see what picture we had. The lemons, it looks like. So let's go ahead and go back to our editor and go to plus and image. We'll grab the first one. We'll resize it a little bit. And we'll drop it onto that second element. I'm going to right click it and go to change image. And I'm going to go to my image elements. And there's the image with the lemons. I'm going to click on it and confirm. And now that element grid is just too small. So we're going to have to click it and grab the handles and stretch it out a bit. And I may want to make it just a little bit bigger because the picture needs to be a little bit bigger. There we go. That's pretty good. Let's make sure we got a little bit more room in there. We'll also move this grid up a little bit. There we go. So now everything's a little bit closer, and now we've got this third grid that we can use, and it requires text. So I'm going to go plus, and then I'm going to go to text, and I'm going to choose the body medium. And remember, that's formatted white, so it may not show up. So let's click it, and it's showing up because it's on this darker part, but we need to move it down here. But before we do, let's go ahead and add our text to it. So I'm going to pull up my notepad, and I'm going to find that text, and I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to click in here and paste it. And it's white. It's not going to show up on our background, so I need to highlight all of it. I'm going to go to text color and choose black. And now I'm going to go ahead and drag it, and we're going to make it a little bit smaller. Now let's take a look at what it looks like on our original. You can see it's kind of a little bit smaller than what we've been using, and it's kind of a gray color. So let's take a look at it again. We'll triple click it, and we'll go to body small, and we'll go ahead and change it to a little bit of a dark gray color. Oops, that's a little bit too light. So let's go to font colors and more colors, and we'll choose that kind of darker gray, and OK. So we just kind of drop it down there, and now we'll resize our grid, just like that. Perfect. So now we have the text, the image, and some more text, and now we have text here. Remember, we're going to keep this one empty, put the text in here, and keep this third one empty. So we're going to put the text in this one. So I'm going to click plus and text, and I'm going to grab for this one the body medium. And remember, it's white. We're going to go ahead and copy our text in here. So I'm going to get my text from my notepad. I'm going to highlight it all and copy, and then go back here, triple click, and paste. And now all of it's in there, but we need to go ahead and make it that grayish color. Let's take a look again exactly what color it is. So it is a kind of a light gray. Looks like about the same color as what we had for this. So I'm going to go back to my HTML editor. I'm going to highlight all of it, and then I'm going to go to text color and more colors. I'm going to choose that same gray. It's a kind of a darker gray, and I'm going to click OK. And let's move that down and see if it did the job. So I'm going to click and drag it into the second element grid. It looks like that gray is pretty good. So now I'm going to click on the element grid and make it a little bit taller. There we go. And we'll make this one a little bit less wide so we can close in that text a little bit. And it looks like it's got some extra line spacing in there, so we'll take that extra line spacing out. Then we'll center this around the center of the picture. May have to go up a little bit on this. We'll pull that element grid in a little bit. And there we go. Everything's centered, and it looks very similar to what we have on this page. So let's click Save and save again. And then we'll move on to the next video and complete the next section of our website. I'm Shelley Turner with the Builderall team. In this video, we're going to work on the next section of our website. So we've done section number 1, section number 2, and we're going to work on section number 3. So let's take a look at what that's supposed to look like. So section number 3 is supposed to look just like this. So if you're just looking at it, you can kind of see how it's broken down, where it looks like there's a row right here, and there's one column right here, and one column right here. And then there's a row right underneath it with 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So we need 2 rows with 4 columns. Or we might be able to create one row but have several lines in that row. The reason we would do that as one row with multiple lines is so that we can create a background for the row that will span across several lines. So that's probably the option that we'll choose. So let's go ahead and try that out. So I'm back into my HTML editor, and I'm going to go ahead and add a new row, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently this time. So I'm going to go to plus, and I'm going to go to rows. And this allows me to add a row that's already pre-made. So I can kind of scroll through these rows, and I see that there's a pre-made one with 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So let's go ahead and grab that one and put it in there. When I do that, it adds it right in. So I've got an empty row with 4 columns, and none of them have been defined yet. Okay, so if we're going to go ahead and define them, if we have 4 columns and they need to all total a defined value of 12, then we need to assign the value of 3 to each column. So I'm going to right click and define it as 3. Right click, define it as 3. Right click, define it as 3, and right click and define as 3. Okay, so now we've got all of those defined as 3, and I want to do one more thing, and that is to add one more column, because remember I need a blank one up above this. So I'm going to right click and copy. It creates a new column for me, and I'm going to right click this one, and I'm going to define the value as 12. Okay, so now I've got a row, and inside that row I've got one line here and another line here. The first line has one column with a defined value of 12, and the second line has 4 columns with a defined value of 12. So now we have our lines in our columns set up inside the row, and now we can start adding what we need to in here. So let's take a look at the original page and see what we need to add in. So the first thing I need to do is, looks like I need to add in that background picture, which is the people at the fruit stand. Looks like they're making a purchase. So let's go into our editor, and we do that on the row. So I'm going to click edit row. I'm going to go to background. I want it to be the full row, and I want to go to image, and I'll click my folder that has my images in it. And here's that picture where they're purchasing from the stand. So I'm going to click it and then go to confirm. I'm going to close that box. So you can kind of see behind there that that picture's there, but what's blocking it? Well, what's blocking it is when you added that row in from the list of available rows, every one of the columns had a background of white. So I need to go into these columns and remove the background. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to background for the column, and I'm going to clear the style. And then I'm going to do that for all the other 4 columns. Right click, background, clear style. 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 So now we can actually see that picture behind the scenes. The next step is to go ahead and add the text. And remember in here, I actually wanted 2 columns, not 1. If we take a look, we had 1 column that would be for this text and 1 column that would be for this text. So what I'm going to do is go back to my editor, and I'm going to right click and copy. Well, now I have 2 of them at 12. So I'm just going to right click this one and change it to 6. And then I'm going to go to the other one, right click, and change it to 6. And now they should be side by side. There's one, and there's the other 4. Now here's a trick that I use, because once you start working in columns and you have this many columns around, it's hard to keep track of them. So what I do is I go to the plus button and I go to boxes, and I'd grab just the first box. It doesn't have to be special. And I just make it really small so it kind of stays out of my way. But now I use this to click and drag and see where all of my columns are. Because sometimes it can be a challenge to find them. So I can see I've got 2 on this line and 4 on this line. That makes it a lot easier for me to do that. So I'm going to just hide this up here somewhere, and I'll use it to grab again probably in a little while. So now I want to go ahead and grab my text. So I'm going to take a look at what text I need. So this is the exact text that I need, and I added it into my notepad. So I've got the "We are awesome," and I've got the smaller text right here, and then I've got all of the numbers and the text that go with it right here. So that's going to help me when I start changing everything on my website. So I'm going to go to HTML editor, and we're going to start thinking this through. So I need the first set of text to be the same style as the very top of the page. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some text. So I go plus and text. And remember that text was formatted right here on the extra large. So I'm going to grab that, and it's got the correct formatting. So then I'm going to grab it and kind of drop it into this first box. And I'm going to go to my notepad and get the actual text I need. And I'm going to copy it and then triple click in here and paste. I'm going to go ahead and click and drag that and drop it down into that box right there. But I need to take a look at the original because there was something different about the original. So let's take a look. So it says "we are," and then it's "read awesome at our work." So going back to the editor, I need to go ahead and click and drag over the "awesome" and change that from white to red. That's not quite a bright enough red, so let's try it again. I'm going to go to more colors, and let's see if we've got some bright red in there. There's red. There's a bright red. So I'm going to choose that one, and OK. And that looks really good. So why don't I bold that and see if that looks even better. Fantastic. So "we are awesome at our work." So it fits right in there exactly like it should. So we'll leave that just exactly like that. And then I need the text for the next area. So I'm going to go into plus. I'm going to choose text. And I'm going to get that body medium. So I'm going to click it. And there it is. It's already white for us. So I'm going to go to my notepad. And I'm going to highlight and copy. And then in here, I'm going to triple click and paste. And there we go. That text is in there. Now let's double check and see what size that is to make sure it matches. And it looks like it's actually bolded. So let's go ahead and go back, and we'll put a little bit of bold on it. See if that helps to pop it out a little bit. So there we go. It's bolded, and it looks like it's popped out a little bit more, and we'll put it about center of where those letters are. So now we've got this column done and this column done. Now let's take a look at these 4 columns. And let's take a look at the original because there's something I want to show you in the original. So I'm going to go over to the original. And if you notice, I've got all of these lined up perfectly. And then I've got all of these lined up perfectly. I think what we can do is create elements in each of these columns and do one element for the number and one element for the text. So let's go ahead and test that out. So I'm going to go back to my editor. And in each one, I'm going to add 2 element grids. So there's 1, 2. There's 1, 2. 2 and 2. So now each of these has 2 element grids in the column. See that? And now let's go ahead and look at our counters and see if we can put our counters in there. So I'm going to go to plus and then animated counters. And we have a number counter and a percentage. Let's take a look at the original, which has 3 numbers and then a percentage. So let me get the number, put that here, and the percentage, and put that here. Now I'm just going to copy this one and paste it into here and paste that one into there. And now I'm going to get the text box and put in the bottom element grid. So I'm going to go to plus and we'll choose text. And I'm going to get the title large and drag it down. I'm going to just put a holder on there for now. We'll make it smaller and we'll put this right here. And then I'm going to copy and paste it, put that right there, put that right there. and put that right there. So now we have text in each one. So now we need to focus on formatting for sure. So let's take a look at what our numbers look like. So it looked like they had no background, and the color of them is a light blue. And the numbers are pretty large. So let's see if we can mimic that. So I'm going to click over here and appearance. And I've got Fusion Counter 1 and Fusion Counter 2. I'm going to add a style in here, and I'm going to say number 1, confirm. And I'm going to check this, and it has no formatting right now. So we're going to go ahead and go to the formatting, which is where we click the gear. So now I can choose the font. So I'm going to click it. Looks like the numbers are clear. So I'm going to go to the colors, and the text color needs to be that light blue. So that could be it right there. And the text hover, we're going to keep it at the same light blue. And now we can choose the size of the font. We're going to center it. And we're going to make it get a lot bigger. And we'll go to appearance again. And gear and font size. We'll go 65. And then we're going to do bold to make it really bold. And there, we don't want a border. We don't want any rounded borders. We just want the number exactly like this. So we're going to leave it like that, and then I'm going to right click and do center element. So it puts it right in the center of that grid. That's perfect. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the second one and go to appearance. And I'm going to go to return and choose that same style, the number 1. And then I'm going to go to the third one and appearance. And again, choose that number 1. And then the fourth one is a percentage. So I'm going to go to appearance, and I'm going to return, right click and go to center element. That puts everything in the center. Right click and go to center element, and then make sure it's in there right. Okay, so we now have everything centered, and now we need to put our numbers in there. So let's take a look at our notepad. And the first number is 136. So let's change that. And it's a number. And we'll put in 136. And now we'll go to the second one, and it's supposed to be 162. So I'm going to right click and go to text. It's a number, and I'm going to go to 162. And then the third one is a number. So let's see what it needs to be. It's 2350. So right click, go to text. It's a number, and go to 2350. Perfect. So now we have all the formatting for these three, and the last one was actually 100%. Let's make sure it was 100%. So fantastic. So let's go ahead and click save so we can save our changes so far. And then we're going to work on these text boxes right here. So in the text box, we need to decide what kind of formatting we want. So let's take a look. We know that it needs to be white. It doesn't need to be as big as this, and it needs to be just a regular font. So let's go in, and we'll do this right here and highlight it. And Arial Black seems to be a little bit strong. So let's go back and go to Arial Rounded. And let's change the color to white. All right, so if that works, we're going to go ahead and delete those, delete those, delete those, and we'll copy this one again because the formatting is correct. Fantastic. And now we need to change the text to exactly what it needs to be. So I'm going to go in here, and we have 136 satisfied clients. So I copy that, paste it in, and then center it. Now you can see that I'm going to have to make this element area a little bit bigger. So we're going to have to first make our column a little bit bigger. So I'm going to click in the column. And to do this, because I've got elements in there, it's a little bit harder. So I'm going to kind of shorten one of the elements so I can get onto the column, and then actually click it a little bit larger like that. So we have a little bit more room to work with. And then this one right here, I can right click it and center, and it should be centered with that 136. I'll go ahead and center that element as well. I'm going to speed through the next three and get them done so we can move on to the next element. So now we have all of our elements put in there, and we've got this item, everything seems to be working. Let's go to save and save again. And now we're going to go to preview and take a look at what we've done so far. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this and put it down in the footer since I'm really not using it right now, but we want to keep it for the next section. So I'm going to go to preview, and if we scroll down, we can see how it's looking so far. There's the one we created, and there's the one we created. So it's looking really good so far. And I'm going to go ahead and return to edit. And then I'll do save one more time. And now we're ready to do the next section in the next video. I'm Shelly Turner with the Builderall team. In this video, we're going to work in the next section of our website. So let's take a look at the original and see what we're going to be working with. So we've done all of this, and now we're on to this area right here. Let's break it down and take a look to see what we see as far as rows and columns. So it looks like I can have this all as one row, and inside that row I can have a line here, a line here, and a line here. And inside this line right here, I'm going to have a column with an element grid and an element grid, and an element grid and an element grid. So in each column, I'll have an element grid for the picture and an element grid for the text. So it looks like that's going to be very doable. So let's go ahead and start tackling it and see if we can get it done. So back in my editor, I have a row that I can pull in that's already pre-made. So let's go to plus, and we'll go to rows, and I'm going to scroll down until I find the row that has 3 columns on it, and I'm just going to click that. Doesn't look like anything happened, but it sent it down to the bottom of my screen. And if I get my trusty little box, I can see I've got column 1, column 2, and column 3. But remember, in my picture, I needed a column that was a 12 that went all the way across that I could put that first text into. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a new column by adding a duplicate of this one. And then I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to define it as a 12. So that will take up the entire line. So let's see what that did. I'm going to grab my box. There's my column of 12, and then I have 3 columns that are actually undefined right now. So let's go ahead and define them. If I have 3, that means to equal 12, I need all 3 of them to be 4 as a defined value. So I'm going to right click and go to 4, and then right click and go to 4, and right click and go to 4. Fantastic. So now I have a row here and a row here, and we need more rows, right? Because we had several pictures. Let's see how many rows we need. So we've got this row of pictures, and then we need another row. Instead of creating a new row now, let's get this one completely set up, and then we can copy it, and that will speed things up a little bit. So let's try that. So we'll do the first row first, and in there was text. So let's go ahead and add our text. So I've got all of my text added to my notepad, and I'm going to take that back to the editor. And now inside this column, I'm going to do the first text box. So I'm going to go plus and text, and I'm going to make this a title L. Then I'm going to triple click on that, and I'm going to delete it. Then I'm going to go back to my notepad, and I'm going to highlight this area and click in my text box and paste in there. So there's the what we do text, and I'm going to click in there again to make sure that I center it, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I choose a gray color, that dark gray color. Let's go ahead and take a look at the original to see if we're getting close. So this is what we do, and it is in that Engelbert format. So let's go back, and we're going to highlight the text and go to font style, and we'll keep scrolling down until we find Engelbert. There we go. Now we've got it in that exact same style. I think I'm going to bold it to make it stand out a little bit. Perfect. And now that that's there, I can take this column and click it and get those handles and then actually pull it up to make it a little bit shorter. Great. Now let's take a look at the pictures again to see what we've got. So I'm going to go back to the original, and it looks like I've got a picture, a heading, and then a little bit of text. So it looks like I can put 3 element grids into each column. So let's take a look. In this column, I'm going to right click and I'm going to add, add, add. So I have 3 of them. And I'm going to do that to all of them. So right click, add, 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 right click, add, add, add. The first thing I'm going to do is come up with a picture, but all I need is a picture holder for right now. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this picture right here. I'm going to copy and paste it, and then I'm going to move it down, and this is my placeholder. So I'm going to put it right there in that element grid, and I can see that I got to make that element grid bigger. So I'm going to stretch it out and then put that center and then move the grid up just a little bit so it's right under that picture. So each of those element grids needs to be about that tall. And then we'll take this picture and copy and paste and put it in the exact same spot. Then we've got our picture holders. Okay, so we've got that done. Now this next one, we need to get kind of this right here, the title of the picture. So let's go ahead and put a text box in there. So I go to plus and text, and I'm going to choose the title small, and I'm going to put that down in there. And I'm going to pull up my notepad, copy this, and paste it in here. And then I'm going to center it because this needs to be centered. Once I center it, I can click out of it and kind of make that a little bit shorter. There we go. And I'm going to need to make this a gray. So let's triple click it, and I'll pull up my text color and choose that dark gray. It's not quite enough, so maybe I can bold it. Oh, that's good. I like that. So that works perfectly, and the text is exactly the same in each of these elements. So I'm going to just copy it and paste it and put it in each of those element boxes. And then once I do that, I'm going to drag that element box up a little bit. Now I'm going to go and copy that text box down into here, and I'm going to go ahead and copy the text that we have, and I'm going to paste it into this box. And that's way too big. So I'm going to go ahead and triple click it again, but this time I'm going to choose maybe body large and see what that is. And let's see if it's centered. Nope, it is left justified. So let's go ahead and triple click it and left justify it. And we definitely need to make this bigger. So let's go ahead and pull that column down. Remember, I have to move that element grid out of the way sometimes. It takes up space. So I've got this in here. That looks pretty good. Let me line it up with this side of the picture. And let's see how it's looking compared to the original. Oh, it looks like it needs to be a little bit smaller. So we'll get in there and do maybe body medium. And then we need to change the text color to gray. And that looks a little bit better. Let's see if that's matching. That's pretty good. Maybe, let's see if it's bolded. Yep, we can unbold it. There, that's almost exact to what is on the other page. So we're going to copy and paste it and put this one in here. We need to make the element grid a little bit longer. And then we're going to copy and paste this one and put it in here. Perfect. All right, so now we're going to shorten our grids. Make sure that everything is, all space is conserved. What we can do now is we can actually take this and copy the entire row. So let me shorten my columns. Okay. And now I'm going to take this row and I'm just going to duplicate it. Now put that first column in there, but that's easy to take out. I just right click it and go to delete. And that moves all my pictures up and everything's lined up. So now all I have to do is change out the pictures. So let's take a look at what that first picture was. This picture right here with the man in the orange. So let's find that picture. So right click, change, go to my list of pictures, And I'm looking for the man in the orange right there and confirm. And then the second picture was, looks like blueberry, so I'm going to right click and change and go to my pictures and find the picture of the blueberries and confirm. The next picture was dragon fruit, so I'm going to right click and go to change image, go to my file, and there's the dragon fruit and confirm. The next row we've got the oranges, right click, change image, go to my folder. The next picture was pomegranate, so right click, change image, go to that folder and pomegranates. And then the last image was strawberries. So I'm going to right click and change and go to my folder and click the strawberries and confirm. And now I've actually done that entire row. And remember, it's actually two separate rows. We copied this row and made it into this row. So it made it really fast to make the changes. We want to make sure that we click save and save again. And now we're ready to move on to the next section of our website. I'm Shelly Turner with the Builderall team. In this video, we're going to continue building our fruit shop website by adding two more sections. So I'm going to go to the original site, and we've added all of this, so now we need to add this red section here and then the contact us section here. So let's go ahead and start working first on this red section. So we'll go back to our HTML editor, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to do this really easy. I'm just going to go ahead and click edit row, and then I'm going to click add row, and it adds a brand new row right underneath where I was just at. And if I scroll down to it and use my little square, you can see that it creates a row with two columns. Let's take a look at the original, and it looks like we need two columns because we have one area here and one area here. So let's go ahead and create that by going into our HTML editor. And the first thing we should do to make this work is we definitely need to change it to the red color. So I'm going to go to edit row and then background and color. And remember, we saved that color in our notepad. So I'm going to go over to my notepad and I'm going to scroll all the way to the top. And there's that color that we originally used for the header. So I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to go to more colors and paste that in there. And that makes me change my color. And remember, I use the full so that it'll go all the way across the screen. So now that we've changed the color, I can go in and add that text. So I'm going to go ahead and add the text, but before I do, I want to show you something on the original. The original has this text that's this size, and then it has another type of text right below it. So I think what I'm going to do is use two element grids and do two different text in the element grids. So let me go back to the editor, and I'm going to right click on that column and add an element grid and add an element grid. And now I'm able to put one text box in this one and one text box in this one. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to plus and text. And here's our large text. That looks like it was the size of the text that was on the top. So I'm going to click that. And I'm going to delete everything but that first word so it's not so big. And now I can grab it and actually pull it down. So let's click outside of it and then click inside of it again. And we'll put that inside of there. And then we need another text box for the second element grid. So I'm going to go plus and text. And I think that was probably the body medium. So I'm going to grab that. And it dumped it right there. You can barely see it. Let me get rid of this box right here. And it is outlined right there, so I'm going to take it and drag it, and we can see it a lot better right there. Okay, so I'm going to put that in there, and now I can put my words in there for that particular section. So I'm going to go back to my notepad, and I've copied all of the words in there to kind of help out with finishing this up. I'm going to highlight here, liked our service, and copy it. And then down here, I'm going to double click to get into it and triple click to highlight everything, and then paste. And then in here, I go back to my notepad and go to this text right underneath it and copy it, and then double click to go into it and triple click to highlight all of it, and then paste. then we can start to kind of resize. I don't want to quite resize it yet because I've got something else to put in here, and that is a button. So let's look at the original. And it looks like it's a blue button, but I think I want the green because I like the green better. So I'm going to go back to my HTML editor, and I'm just going to go all the way up here to where this green button is, and I'm going to copy it and paste it. And now I've got an exact copy of that button, so I can kind of pull it down here where I want it and put it right in there just like that. That button says liked our service, so I can go in here and go back to the editor and maybe change the text. So I can type in let us know how we're doing and confirm. And it's quite a big button here. I can stretch it out a little bit. There we go. And we might could set that button to go to like email or something like that. So we can go to right click and action. And here's all the things we can do. We can do no action. We can send it to a page in our website. If this was part of the mobile site, we can send it to a phone number. We can send it to a pop-up, a video, push notifications. We can send it to email. That's what I would do with this one, is send it to email so that you could automatically pop up an email and they can send you an email to tell you how you're doing. But you could also send it to a web address. You could add a document here, an anchor point, or even add a payment option. So that's what you can do with that button, but we're just going to leave it like that. And now we can start resizing everything now that we got all the elements in. So this one's pretty big. I don't really need to resize that element grid too much. This one I can move up a little bit and then resize that element grid like that to kind of conserve space. And then on the column, I can resize it to conserve space as well. And now I can make sure to put this in the middle, and then I can right click it and center the element so it puts it right exactly in the center of that column. Okay, so that is that red stripe, which is very easy to do. So now let's take a look at the next section. So I'm going to look at the sample, and it's a white area, and it looks like it's got just one column, right, all the way across one column, and I can put one element, two elements, three elements. Our contact form is going to be an element all of itself. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to go back to the editor, and I'm going to again add a row. So I'm going to click on edit row and then add a row, and that puts in just a white row for me. And if you remember, if I click outside of it and then look in it again with my square, it adds two columns. And remember, we just said a minute ago that all we really need is one column. So I'm going to go ahead and just right click the second column and delete it. And now I should have just one column going all the way across. And we said that there was three elements, so I'm going to right click and go to the add element grid and click it 1, 2, 3 times. And that gives me 3 element grids in there to work with. So now let's take a look at the text. And the text says contact us, and it's in a kind of a medium gray. And then a paragraph underneath that, and then the contact form. So I'm going to go ahead and do the contact us first. I'm going to go to plus and text, and I'm going to choose that white text, and I'm going to click it, and now I'm going to go ahead and drag it onto that top element. But first, before I do anything, it's really, really hard to see it because the text is white. So I'm going to triple click it, and I'm going to go ahead and change it to gray. So there's a dark gray right there, I think. Yep, that's good. And then I'm going to go ahead and get rid of some of those words in there to just kind of make it smaller and fit in the space. So there we go. That is in the first grid. And then we need smaller text that's gray in the second grid. So I'm going to go to text, and I'm going to choose my white body medium, and I'm going to click that. And again, it dropped it in here, and it's white, so it's going to be hard to see, but I'm going to drop it down in that second element grid. I'm going to triple click in it, and I'm going to choose that medium gray again, and now I'll be able to see that text. And then the last one was the contact form, and this one I'm going to have to make the element grid bigger because it's definitely a larger size. Okay, so I need to go ahead and stretch it out a bit, and then I'm going to go to plus and contact, and we've got several options here. I can choose any of these options that I want. I think I'm going to choose this one right here. I'm going to click on it, and it adds the form into our page. And now I've got plenty of room to be able to kind of expand it a little bit. and make sure that it's the size that I want it. So now let's go ahead and start editing and make sure that it looks like what it needs to look like. So first off, this top one, I definitely need to click in there and center. Great. And now I'm going to go to my trusty notepad and I'm going to highlight and copy contact us. I'm going to click inside of there and triple click and then paste. And then I'm going to do the next one, which is just the smaller text. And I'm going to find the paragraph here. I'm going to copy that and then double click in there and then triple click in there and paste. I think I'm going to make that just one paragraph, just like this. Great. And now I'm going to go ahead and just kind of stretch it out a bit. There we go. And now I can start shrinking my elements. So this one right here, I don't really have to shrink very much because it fits the size. This one I'm going to bring it up a little bit and then shrink the element grid. And I'm also going to right click it and center it. And let me see if these were centered. Yep, the actual words were centered. So we're going to click inside of there and center it in there as well. And then for the contact form, I'm going to bring that up as far as I want it up and then go ahead and shrink the element grid. And now that one's done. So I'm going to go ahead and click save and save again. And now let's take a look at what this is looking like. So I'm going to go into my dashboard and I'm going to check out my site by publishing. So first I need to go into the dashboard and then I go into builders, drag and dot responsive, and my responsive sites. And this is a list of all of my websites that I've built so far. To publish it so that you can look at the public version, all you need to do is go to more options and then mine says unpublished because I've already published, but you click publish and that will publish your site so that it's available for other people to look at on the internet. So I've already published mine. And then all I have to do to take a look at the live version is to actually click the name of it. So I'm going to go ahead and click this and it will take me to the live version. So I'm on the live version of the Fruit Shop website and I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and we'll take a look at how it's looking so far. So everything looks great. These are the two sections that we just added. And now we've got one more section and that is the footer, and we'll do that in the next video. I'm Shelly Turner with the Builderall team. In this video, we're going to do the last section of our Fruit Shop website. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom in our editor, and we're going to take a look at this area right here. And let's take a look at the original as well. So I'm going to click in the original and go all the way to the bottom, and this is the area that we're configuring in this video. And it looks like we've got 4 different columns. I've got column 1, 2, 3, 4. So we definitely need to make 4 columns and then we can work on putting the content inside of there. So let's go ahead and go into our HTML editor. And the first thing we need to do for sure is go ahead and change the color of our footer. To do that, I'm just going to right click on there and I go to row configuration and I'm going to click background and I'm going to make sure it says full, and then I'm going to click color. And remember, we've got that color on our notepad, so I'm going to go all the way to the top and I'm going to highlight that color code and copy, and then I'm going to click more colors and paste that color code in there, and that is the correct color for that row. So now that we've got the color in, we can talk about the columns. And if we take a look with our trusty little square, I can see that I've got 2 columns already, so I need to add 2 more. So I'm going to go to this column right here and right click and add a column, and then right click and add a column. And now if I take that square and go back over it, I have 4 columns that are all equal in size. So now I can start putting my content in. So let's take a look at the original and see what's in that very first column. So let's take a look real quick. All right, so we've got a picture of the fruit shop, which would be one element, and then a paragraph, which would be a second element. So it looks like we need 2 elements in there. So I'm going to go back to my editor and I'm going to make sure I am in that column, and I'm going to right click and add element grid and right click and add element grid. So now we have two element grids, and those element grids we're going to use and put in our picture, which will be a little bit bigger, and then our little paragraph, which might be just a little bit bigger. Okay, so we need to make that a little bit bigger. And now I'm going to go ahead and get a picture. So I'm just going to grab this picture here. I'm going to copy and paste it. Real simple. Doesn't really matter what image you grab. It just needs to be any old image. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so I can fit it inside that element grid. There we go. And now I can just right click on the picture and change image, and then go into my correct folder, and I'm going to find the fruit shop image, which, remember, it was all white. That logo was all white, so this is it right here, and I'm going to click confirm. And now I've got my image in there. I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger, like that. That looks really good. And I'll take that element box and kind of shrink it up a bit. And now I'm ready to add my text. So I'm going to go to plus and text, and I believe I'm going to grab that white text, that's body medium, and it dumped it right here, so I'm just going to click and drag it down into the right box, and then I'm going to shrink that text box up a little bit so it fits inside that element. Then I'm going to go to my notepad and scroll all the way back down to find that paragraph. So there it is right there. I'm going to highlight it, copy, and then double click inside the box and triple click to highlight everything, and then paste. And I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger to take up a little bit more space inside that box, and then put it right under there, maybe center it a little bit. There we go. And then I can kind of do this right here. And we've got the startings of the footer for this particular page. Now we'll work with the second column. So let's take a look at what's in there. And that is a contact, and then, or contact us, and then the address and the time and email and phone number. So I can actually do all of that as maybe one element and then another element to hold all of those parts, because I've got, this is one font and then all of this is another font. So let's go ahead and do it as two elements and see how that works out. So I'm going to go back to the editor, and inside that column I'm going to right click and go to add element grid and add element grid. So I've got two elements now added. So I need to go into the plus sign and go to text and choose just a regular text. Looks like this right here, maybe title medium. And I'm going to put it down into that element box and delete most of it. Then I'm going to drag it down just a little bit and close that in just a little bit. There we go. And now I need another text box that's going to have our address and stuff like that in it. So I'm going to pick title small and click on it, and then put that in the second element box. I'll need to make it a little bit smaller. There we go. And we'll expand that element box a little bit so it covers everything. Now we've got our boxes in for the text, and now let's add our text. So I'm going to go to the notepad, and the first one is contact us. So I'm going to highlight that and copy, double click, and then triple click, and then paste. And then I also want to make this white. So I'm going to go to the text color and choose white. And then I'm going to go ahead and center it too. It needs to be in the center there. And then I can actually right click this and center the element. And remember, there was some space, so I may need to move this down to the bottom of this box, just like that. And now I'm going to click inside here, and I'm going to go ahead and change that to white. And we'll go ahead and get to our trusty notepad, and we'll highlight all of this information and copy. Now I'm going to click inside of here and triple click and paste. And as you can see, the font is really big. It definitely doesn't need to be that big. So I'm going to click inside of there to put my cursor in there, and then I'm going to highlight all of it. And I'm going to change the font size. Right now it's title small, so I think I'm going to go to maybe body large. And that looks like the perfect size. So now I can kind of shrink this up a little bit and put it under contact us. And it looks like it fits perfectly. So there we go. We've got that one done. And now let's go ahead and take a look at the next column right here. So I'm going to go to the original, And that looks like a menu. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. And let's do the fourth column. So I'm going to go back into my HTML editor. I'm just going to copy this text right here and paste and move it over to this box. But before I do, I'm going to go ahead and put an element grid in there. So I'm going to right click and do element grid and element grid. I'm going to need two of them. And I'm going to put the copy of contact us into that first element grid. I'm going to type in. And then I'm going to just put it right there at the bottom of that element. And now I need to find a subscription form to put in there. So I'm going to go to plus, and I'm going to go to email marketing form. That allows me to add them to a mailing list, and I can use that mailing list to send out a newsletter subscription. So I'm going to click on that, and I've got a bunch of different sizes and types. I'm going to go ahead and choose this one right here with the rounded edges. So click on it, and I'm going to take that down, and it's going to go into that second element, but I need to definitely make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to click and drag it a little bit bigger. Now I'm going to make this smaller so it'll fit inside of that element. And it's still way too big, and I need to definitely work on it. So I'm going to make it a little bit wider first to fit into that element grid. And it definitely needs to be taller, so I'm going to click on the grid and make it taller. And now I've got a little bit to work with here, but obviously I need to have the boxes a little bit smaller, and I need to change the wording from get access now to maybe join now or subscribe. So let's go ahead and right click that form, and we're going to go to appearance. And here we can change the way this thing looks. So on the form labels, I can change the text color of the labels, the size, and then we'll go to the form field type. This is the background color and all the different colors. I think all of that is fine. The field spacing is actually fine. We don't want to stretch out that spacing anymore. Here's where we want to affect it is the height. So I'm going to make it a little bit shorter, just like that. So make it smaller so it can fit in that size. I don't want to worry about any border, and the style of the button. So on the style of the button, let me get to the top. There's style of the button. I'm going to go ahead and keep it green, but I'm going to do a darker green. So maybe that green right there. And then everything else can stay the same except for the border. And then we've got the space from the top. Keep that all the way down. We've got the size. We'll stretch it to 100%. The height, we're going to shorten it a little bit to match the fields. There we go. And now let's talk about the text size. And here's the size of the text. I'm going to go ahead and make it smaller. There we go. And then I'm going to right click here and go to button. And I'm going to type in subscribe now. And there we go. Now we've got the color of the button, the way it matches the rest of the site. The size is fitting in that area. And now I can actually click and drag that element up, and my columns came up as well, so that I've got the best use of my space. And because this newsletter subscription, it needs to be, instead of centered, it needs to be on the left justify, so I'm going to left justify it. I'm going to shorten this a little bit, and I'm going to line this up, maybe lower it just a little bit. There we go. And see if we can line it up with this contact us. I'm going to use my ruler and put a marker in there and line it up just like that. There we go. And now I'll change my element to go all the way back up, and then take this so it fits in there, and I can take my ruler off, and now it fits in there perfectly. Okay, so now I've got my newsletter in there. I've got the contact us and the fruit shop logo. The last one is actually the menu, and we're going to do that in the next video. I'm going to show you how to do your menu for your header and your footer. I'll see you in the next video. I'm Shelly Turner with the Builderall team. In this video, we're going to talk about adding the main menu to be able to navigate this page. The important thing to remember about this menu is it's an anchor menu, meaning that all of the links on the menu are just going to link to a different area on the page instead of linking to a different page. So let's take a look at our menu and what we need on it. So I'm going to go to the original, and we need home, about us, services, and contact us. So let's go ahead and create those anchors first. So I'm going to go back to the editor, and for each area, I'm going to go ahead and put an anchor for that item on the menu. So I'm going to go to the plus sign, and I'm going to go to menu, and I'm going to choose anchor menu. And I'm just going to choose the very first one. And now I've got that chosen, and this is where I'm going to set up my anchors. So I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go to edit anchor menu. And this is where I'm going to add my anchor. So I've already got the top of the page, and now I'm going to go to add another anchor. I need a total of 4 anchors. So I'm going to add 4 in. And once I've got those 4 anchors added in, I'm going to click the edit button on the first one and call it home. On the second one, I'm going to call that one about us. On the third one, I'm going to call that one services. And on the fourth one, I'm going to edit that and call it contact us. Now that I have all of my anchors named, you can see that they're actually right here. They got dropped down inside of here already. So all I need to do now is actually put them exactly where the anchors are supposed to be. So for home, I want the person to go all the way back up to the top of the page. For about us, I'm going to go ahead and put this right here where we start talking about the company. For services, I'm going to drag that down and put it in the area where we start to talk about the services, the what we do area. And then of course the last one is contact us, and that's going to go all the way down at the bottom where we've got the contact form. So now that we've got all of our anchors in there, the next thing we can do is actually go ahead and hide this menu because we don't want the menu to look like this. So I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to go to the hide button, and that's going to hide it in this area right here. When I click the hide button, it shows me all the items that are hidden. If I want to unhide them, I just click the arrow and it unhides for me. And then if I want it hidden again, right click and choose the eye and hide it again. So I can hide elements when I don't want them to show. When I click that eye again, it will close that box. So that's how you hide elements so that the user that comes to your site won't see those hidden items. So now I can actually make my menu to be able to put on the page. I'm going to go to plus, menu, and I'm going to click that first menu. And when I click that first menu, it comes up as empty. It doesn't have anything inside of it. And that's because we have to add the items in there that we want in our menu. So I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to go to configure. And I'm going to go ahead and click add, and I'm going to call it the anchor menu. And here's where I configure everything that I want inside that menu, what I want to show on the page. So I'm going to go ahead and go to new item, and I'm going to name the item home. And I'm going to go where it says action taken after, the first one where it says no action. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to choose anchor. And remember, this is the home, so I'm going to click home and then OK, and then confirm. So that creates a blue button, which is telling me it's a menu item that I created and not one that was automatically created by the website. So now I'm going to create another new item. This one's going to be about us. On the action, I'm going to choose anchor and about us and OK and confirm. And then I'm going to do another new item, and the name of this one is services. And on the action, I'm going to choose anchor and services, OK, and confirm. And then the last one, I'm going to do new item, and this one's going to be contact us. And on the action, I'm going to choose anchor and contact us, and then OK, and confirm. And now I've got all of my anchors in there, but I still need to move them over to where it says configuration. So I want home over there on my menu. I want about us. I want services, and I want contact us. And now I need to decide what order I want them in. So I want home first, and then about us, and then services, and then contact us. Now that I've dragged everything over where I want it, and I've put it in the order that I want it, I can click confirm. If you'll notice, this still says empty menu. That's because it's still checkmarked on the menu default. We want this menu to be the anchor menu that we just created. So I'm going to check mark anchor menu. And now you can see it put all of that in there just exactly in the order that we made it. The next thing I want to do is change the look of it. I don't want the words to be blue. So I'm going to right click on the menu and I'm going to go to appearance. And on appearance, I can click return right here. And I've got several different styles I can choose from. So I can kind of scroll down and see if any of those look right. None of them really match what I want, so I'm going to click the gear button to go in and edit. Here's the font. I can change the font if I want to, including making it a little bit bigger. The next thing is menu spacing. I can change the horizontal spacing. I can also change the vertical spacing, make it shorter or taller. I'm going to make it just a little bit shorter, but I'm going to keep the vertical spacing where it's at. And then the item spacing, I can actually space those far apart or I can put them close together. There's also the option of a submenu. I haven't created a submenu here. I can also choose to change the menu text color. And here, I want the text to be white. So I'm going to go ahead and change the default color from blue to white. And then the hover color, I'm going to go ahead and keep that white as well. But the selected color, I'm going to go ahead and make clear. Usually the selected color is used when you're traveling from page to page. So if you change the color of the selected page, you'll know exactly what page you're on the website. Because this is an anchor menu, we're never really leaving this page. We'll just keep the selected color as no color at all. So now that we've changed the color of our menu, I'm going to go ahead and scoot it over so that it's underneath where our logo is at. Now we've got that first menu configured and ready to go. I'm now going to create another menu to go on the footer. So I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom, and this is the column where we wanted that menu to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is just create some grid elements. So I'm going to click add grid element once and click it again. So I've got 2 grid elements. In the first grid, I'm going to go ahead and put menu. So I'm just going to copy contact us and paste it and then move it over to that element grid. And then I'm just going to click in there once to get my cursor and twice to highlight all of it. And I'm just going to change the word to menu. That puts the word menu in there for me. Now I need to add my menu. And it's going to be a little bit bigger than the element grid is right now. So I'm just going to make it taller. And now I'm ready to add my menu. I'm going to use that same menu that I did on the top. So I'm going to go all the way to the top. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to copy and paste. Now I've got an exact copy of that menu. I'm just going to go ahead and start dragging it all the way down to the bottom. So now I've got it at the bottom of the page, but it's not fitting in that box because it's horizontal. So I'm going to go ahead and right click it and I'm going to choose to make the menu vertical. And now I've changed the direction of that menu and I can come in and drag and drop it exactly where I want it, right under the word menu. So that's how you create both menus for the header and the footer to go inside your website. And remember, we used our box to be able to get around and see our columns and our grid elements. We don't really need it anymore because we're done with configuring the site. So I can click right on that box and hit the delete button and it deletes it out of this website. And now I'll click save and save. And now I'm going to just go all the way back up to the top and I'm going to do a once over to make sure everything looks okay. So I'm going to go scroll down, make sure everything's still aligned and all the pictures are correct and the menus are correct. Now it's time to look at the live version and see how it looks. I'm in the live version. I'm going to go ahead and click refresh to make sure I've got all of the newest changes. And I'm going to scroll down and see how everything looks. Looks like everything's lined up correctly. I'm going to go back up to the top and we're going to test our menu. And it looks like it works perfectly. So now we've installed the menu in the header. I'm going to go down to the footer and we're going to make sure it all works there too. Perfect. And now about us and services and contact us. So everything's working perfectly on the menu. And we have now completely made our fruit shop website from scratch. And now I challenge you to go out and use the techniques that you learned in all of these videos to make your very own website using the amazing drag and drop responsive builder with Builderall. I'm Shelly Turner with the Builderall team. In this video, we're going to take our fruit shop website and optimize it for mobile. So I'm going to go into my builder, responsive builder, and my responsive sites. And it's QS1 fruit stand. Before I optimize it, I'm going to just make a copy of it to make sure I'm working in the copy so that if anything happens, I'll actually have the original to be able to go back to. So for QS1 fruit stand, I'm going to go all the way across to more options, and then I'm going to go to duplicate and click OK. And now I've got a copy of it right here. I'm going to go ahead and rename it, and I'm going to call it mobile ready and click save. And now we've got QS1 fruit stand mobile ready. I'm going to go ahead and click more options, and I'm also going to publish it so that when we're working on it, we can actually look at it as we're going. All right, so now we've got it named, we've got it published, and now I'm going to go ahead and open this by clicking right on the name. And it doesn't come up right away because I just published it, but I'm going to pull this tab away so it's independent of the other tabs, and I'm going to kind of minimize it. And in doing that, I'm going to also go into the name of it. And instead of it saying OMB 10, I want it to say OMB 11 in the address bar. And I'm going to click enter. And that takes me to my live site. So when I make changes, I can see these changes right away. So there's my live site. You can use the previewer that's in the editor, but it doesn't represent the mobile view near as well as if you use a separate tab and resize the tab. So my recommendation is to not use the previewer yet, but go ahead and use an open tab and resize that window to get a good idea of what your mobile view looks like. And now let's take a look at this thing and how it looks as far as live and how it looks on mobile. So if I stretch it out like this, you'll see that it goes to a desktop version, but it's kind of throwing everything really wonky. So let's go ahead and shrink it and see what happens. Now this is shrinking it to where it looks a lot like what the phone version would look like. So as you can see, things are stacked really wonky and it doesn't look very good. That section looks pretty good. But, and then we've got this section that looks pretty good. And then the bottom looks fairly good. So we have a little bit of work to do to get this thing mobile ready. Not a whole lot of work, but as you can see, the top, the header is really messed up. So we need to work with that one. This side right here doesn't look too bad except for the extra space that we have. So we'll take care of that. This section looks really good. This section looks really good. This section looks really good. And then this section looks fairly good. The button is a little wonky. And the contact us looks pretty good, except for this button right here. We can't see it, so we need to stretch it all the way across. And then the footer needs a little bit of work too. It looks kind of wonky. So we've got a little bit of work to do to get it all set up. So let's go ahead and jump in and start editing. I'm going to leave this available so I can actually check out the changes by just hitting refresh. Okay, so that's going to stay ready and available to me. And so I'm going to go to our QS1 fruit stand mobile ready, and I'm going to click edit. All right, fantastic. So one of the things that pops up when this loads is the blue that shows up that used to be behind this red. So we need to go to edit row, and I need to go to where it says edit header. And there's still blue behind that header. So I'm going to click edit header. I'm going to go to appearance, and I'm going to click this long single background because we want it to go all the way across. And then for colors, it's still blue, so I'm going to just delete the color. And that'll do it for the header. There won't be blue under there anymore. And if I go all the way to the bottom, I'm going to click edit row, and I'm going to edit footer. And I'm going to go to appearance, and I'm going to click the long one, and then colors and trash can. And that will delete the colors that are in the background. I'm going to click save for that and save again. And so we've changed those colors in there that are hiding in the background, and we'll make sure that those do not show up anymore. The next step is to take a look at this area, the header, and see how we want to change it for mobile, because it's a little bit of a challenge to get all of this in mobile and make it look good. So we kind of have to decide, what do we want to keep for the mobile and what do we want to get rid of, and what do we want to change to make the mobile look really nice. What I'm going to do is, there's a lot of changes that I'm going to make to this, because I'm going to take out all three of these. I'm going to take out the social sharing, and I'm only going to keep the fruit shot logo, and then the menu, and even the menu I'm going to change a little bit. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and click edit row, and I'm going to just duplicate the row. So I've got an exact copy here, and I'm going to go ahead and remove all of these little things. And all I'm doing is clicking on them and getting the square around them, and then I'm hitting the delete button, and that deletes them. And then I'm going to remove the social sharing. And then I'm going to go ahead and move the menu over here, and that enables me to get rid of this next area, this next line. So I'm going to click delete and delete on this one. And now I've got only 2 columns, and let me get my trusty box so you guys can see that. And as you can see now on the mobile header, I've only got 2 columns. So I'll go ahead and put this right here exactly the way I want it. I'm going to right click and make sure that it says center on mobile. That's excellent. And then right here, this is that menu. I want it to center on mobile, so that's selected. But I also want to make it a burger menu. Whenever you have menus on a cell phone, if you have a wide menu like this, it will not be good. It won't look good. It won't be easy for the users to use. But you can make burger menus out of any menu. So I right click on the menu and go to burger menu. And then I check mark burger menu, and I can choose whatever style I want. I'm just going to go with the default style and click save. And then what you'll see is a burger menu right here instead of the long menu. So now I'm going to close in some of this to make best use of my space. For this one, if I right click, the column size is 6. I'm going to make it a 4. So make it a little bit smaller. Now you can see that that fits in there a little bit better. I might even make it a 3. Let's see if that works. All right, so that works really well. So it fits in there really well. There's very little wasted space. And then the next one I want to do is this one right here. I want to make it really small so that I'm not wasting space at all. So I'm going to kind of move it out of the way for just a second. I'm going to right click this one and call it a 1. And now that it's a 1, I can put that burger menu right in there, and I don't waste any space. And I'm going to go ahead and add one more column. And remember, we had a 3 here and a 1 here. That's a total of 4. So this column can be a total of 8. And that is a total of 12 across that line. And what I'm going to do is, this one's going to appear on mobile. This one's going to appear on mobile. But this one is a lot of space that we do not want to appear on mobile. So I'm going to right click it and tell it to not appear on mobile. Okay, so that one is blocked out and will not appear on mobile. I'm going to go ahead and save what I did. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this row, and I'm going to make sure that this does not appear on the mobile. So that whole row will not appear on the mobile. I'm going to go ahead and click save, and then save again. And now we'll go to the live version and take a look at what it looks like. So I'm going to refresh. And now you can see I've got the logo and I've got the burger menu, and everything else is not in there. So it really makes use of that space wisely, and doesn't waste any space. Okay, so the next area we have to get rid of some space on is that next section. So let's take a look at the next section. So right here, I want this column in there, but I do not want this column. So I'm going to right click that column and say not on mobile. I do not want it to appear on mobile. So I'm going to click save and then save again. And let's go to the live version again, and we'll see what it looks like. So I'm going to refresh. And now you can see that it's scrunched up there a little bit better with a good use of space. So we're happy with that. The next section is spaced perfectly. The next section is spaced perfectly. And the next section is spaced perfectly. So we need to work on, actually this one's spaced well. The next thing we need to work on is the Contact Us section. And the thing we're looking at is this button right here. It does not have all of the lettering so you can read it. So we'll have to do some editing to that form. So let me minimize this. We'll go down to this area and we're going to edit that form to make sure we can see all of that word send. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to Appearance. And then right here it says Style of Button. We're going to click the arrow and I'm going to scroll down until it says the size of the button. Okay, right here where it says the size of the button. Right here it's at 33%, so it's going to take about a third of the size. I want it to be 100%, so I'm going to just go all the way across to 100. That makes that button go all the way across, and then I'm going to click Save and Save again. And then I'm going to go ahead and look at the live version and see if that did it. So I'm going to go back to this one, click Refresh, and we'll scroll down to see how that did. See if it picked it up. Excellent. Now we can see that it says send. So everything is okay with that. The next one to tackle is the footer. So let me minimize this and we'll go down to the footer. And again, I'm going to go ahead and create just a new version so that we can have a brand new version for our mobile. So I'm going to go Edit Row and then Duplicate. And so now I have an exact copy. On this one, this is the one I do not want to appear on mobile. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it and click on mobile to disable the mobile. So now this one will not appear on mobile. On this one, I want to click on it and I do not want to see it on the desktop or the tablet. So you can see when I hover over this one, it's not going to show on mobile. When I hover over this one, it will not show on desktop or tablet. So now I get to figure out how do I want to format this for the mobile version. I think I want to take the newsletter off, so we remove those. And the menu I want to be a burger menu. So I'm going to take the word menu off and I'm going to change this to a burger menu. So I'm going to go to burger menu and check burger menu and save. So now my burger menu's there. I can leave the contact information there. I think that'll probably be good. Leave the logo there. I can take this paragraph off. Wonderful. So now I'm going to start moving things up so that we can see it better. So I'm going to actually take this off as Contact Us. And I'm going to move this up into this box and make this box a little bit longer so that all of that fits in there. Then I'm going to take my burger menu and put it right there. There we go. I'm going to take this element because it doesn't have anything, so I'm going to remove it. And so it's all one column with one element. This one has a few element grids, so I'm going to take them off. And then we'll double check it with Shelly's box. I think it was all the way up here. All right, so let's see how the phone version is looking. So we don't have any more elements in there. That's just going to be a box with space. We don't want that, so I'm going to right click it and I'm going to hide it on the mobile. So now we've got it hiding on desktop and hiding on mobile for that column. And then this column doesn't have any extra element grid, so that's good. This has an extra element grid, so we're going to take that out. And then this one has an extra element grid, so we're going to take it out. And now we can actually slide our column up to make sure we're making the best use of space. That should be about it, actually. Easy peasy, nice and breezy. So let's take a look at how that looks. Before we do, I need to go up to the top and make sure that everything's configured right here. So for the desktop, we don't want this to appear on mobile, so the mobile's blocked out. For this one, we don't want this entire row to appear on desktop, so I'm going to click it and disable desktop and disable tablet. We said we want this column to not show on the mobile because it's just empty space. We scroll down, this is not showing on the mobile. Everything else was okay until we get down to the form. We got the form button stretched out. And then for the footer, we made two different rows. The first row is going to be showing on desktop and tablet, but not mobile. The second row is going to be showing on mobile, but not desktop or tablet. We've got an empty column that will not show up on mobile. So let me go ahead and save changes and save again. And now let's look at our mobile version and see what it looks like. So I'm going to open that up and I'm going to hit refresh. Now I'm going to scroll down for the top. That looks wonderful. The burger menu, it opens up into our menu items, so that works really well. Scroll down, we've got no unwanted space in there. We've got no unwanted space in there. We've got good spacing there. We've got wonderful spacing there. Got good spacing there. The button might be a little bit big, but that's okay. Contact us. We can now see the send button, which is fantastic. And then at the bottom, we've got the logo plus the information about the company and another burger menu for them to navigate. So everything looks great on mobile there. The most important thing to remember is think about the empty space that's in your website and try to get rid of those empty spaces by creating empty columns that you can right click and disable for the mobile or disable for the tablet. And that way you can start really managing your space well and being able to set it up for your mobile device. So that's how you edit for mobile inside the responsive builder in Builderall.